Hi, my name is Molly Takagi, and I'm the K-8 Social, Emotional, and Ethical Learning Coordinator. So we know that our emotions matter inherently, and we know that all learning is also emotional and relational. We learn differently depending on the relationships of the people that we're with and the way we feel while we're learning. But what's changed in the last several decades in education research is that we now know a lot more about why emotions matter, and why we as parents, caregivers, and teachers should be paying attention to our students' emotions, our children's emotions, in order to support their development. So, in this video, we'll talk a little bit about four areas that are especially important for understanding emotion skills and why we should be explicitly teaching social, emotional, and ethical learning skills in school and at home. So I'd like to start with just a brief overview of what we mean by social, emotional, and ethical learning. So we all learn social and emotional skills throughout our lives through our different interactions and experiences at school, at home, and out in the world. But in the model of direct instruction of SEEL, there are five core competency areas that we teach in order to support student skill development. These include self-awareness, self-management or self-regulation, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. In my teaching, I think about responsible decision making as the overarching goal of teaching SEEL. You can also think about that as the ethical learning piece of SEEL. And then we teach and provide opportunities to practice making decisions within these two buckets of skill sets. So we've got the skills for ourselves, or the intrapersonal skills of self awareness and self management. So we might be talking about making healthy choices, emotion regulation strategies, self advocacy, growth mindset, etc. And then in the skill set of skills for interacting, we've got the relationship skills and social awareness. This includes conflict resolution, healthy collaboration, active listening, showing appreciation for others, etc. So that's what we mean by SEEL, teaching these skill sets directly and providing students opportunities to practice and then reflect on what they've learned. So, emotion skills matter for our success in life, especially because of the ways that our emotion abilities impact us in these four areas: in our relationships, in regards to our ability to learn, to pay attention, and remember things, in our decision making, and finally in our health and well being. So, I'm going to break down these four areas a little bit with some examples. First, our emotion skills can greatly impact our ability to build and maintain healthy friendships and relationships. Children need to learn to recognize emotional cues in others. They need to be able to express their own emotions appropriately to others, and finally, regulate their emotions in social situations. Move my little picture out of the way. For example, naturally, all children will get frustrated at times when they're playing or learning with others. Let's imagine that these students are playing a game together and one feels that she's not being included. If she's able to notice her emotions and express them respectfully to her friends or to ask an adult for help, she'll have a better chance of building strong relationships with her peers than if she took out her frustration in an unhelpful way, such as by storming off or by yelling at her friends. Children can learn how to build strong relationships by learning about relationship skills in school, and families can support this learning by discussing relationships and friendships at home, as well as by modeling healthy relationship skills like conflict resolution in our own adult relationships. Next, emotions and emotion skills can have a huge influence on how we learn. Due to the ways our brains function, we simply can't learn if we don't feel safe. Safe to be ourselves, safe to take risks, to potentially make mistakes in a learning environment. If a student doesn't feel safe, the problem solving logical part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, can't engage. So, teachers and caregivers are responsible for making sure that learning environments promote social belonging and emotional safety. Also, students can learn to recognize if they're feeling unsafe and learn how to advocate for themselves or for their classmates. At school, teachers can create safe learning environments by making sure that they provide opportunities for students to get to know one another and build relationships. Teachers can also set expectations for how we treat one another and step in with restorative practices for conflict resolution for times when things don't go quite right. For example, these students learning with Kumu Shelby clearly feel comfortable, happy, and excited to be learning together because of the way Kumu Shelby structures their learning time in outdoor education. So, decision making. We have all experienced making a decision that we later regretted because we made the decision when we were overtired, exhausted, angry, or feeling low. Learning emotional intelligence skills can help students become better decision makers because SEEL and emotional intelligence skills in particular can help us learn how to manage big emotions when we experience them so that we can respond thoughtfully and not react automatically. We make better decisions when we are calm, not activated, and have space and time to reflect on our experiences and our options before making choices. SEL is about teaching students to create that space for themselves so that they can pause before responding or making a decision. Learning about and practicing mindfulness strategies can also help students remember to pause when they have a big emotion or are activated. For example, in my fourth and fifth grade SEL classes and in 6-8 homeroom activities, we practice mindful breathing and teach students that practicing mindfulness regularly can help them know how to pause and think about their responses and behavior when met with challenges. Finally, emotions matter because they have a huge impact on our overall health and well being. We all know about the research that experiencing chronic stress can have hugely adverse effects on our overall health. Learning and practicing self regulation and self care strategies, mindfulness and calming tools, these things can help students to decrease their stress and anxiety and help them learn to manage the difficult moments and the inevitable challenges of life. So let's imagine that this student, let's call him Ben, didn't get a good night's sleep and he forgot to eat his snack. His mom notices that he's falling behind in his online learning and snaps at him. Ben's amygdala, the fight or flight emotional response area of the brain, might become activated. He might be so worried about disappointing his mom and so dysregulated that learning has just become impossible. His prefrontal cortex just can't engage. Part of why he may have shut down is just because he was overtired and hungry. Emotion regulation and self care go hand in hand, meaning when we make good decisions regarding our health, such as regular exercise, good diet, and sleep habits, it's easier to regulate our emotions and vice versa. It's easier to make good choices about our health when we're paying attention to how we're feeling. So, just a final note, we as teachers and parents, we're teaching and sending messages to our children and to our students about SEL day in and day out, even if we don't know it. We communicate our values and our own social emotional competence in the ways that we interact with our kids, the ways we interact with our partners and other individuals that we come into contact with. Remember to give yourself the permission to feel whatever emotions you're experiencing. And I recommend that you take time to stop and notice and reflect on your own emotions, maybe even out loud when you're with your children. This simple practice will open up many opportunities for your child to deepen their understanding of emotions and why they matter. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this presentation. I hope that you'll feel free to reach out if you have any questions or would like to talk more. Take care.